All right, we are in-house with Coach Steve Smith, and Coach, playoff time, and you had to be happy with your performance of your team last week with a 49-0 victory over Vinemont. Before we talk about this week's opponent, let's rewind the clock to last week to get not only in the playoffs, to get a win in the playoffs and then have a shutout win in the playoffs. It means all three phases must have been clicking. Take us back to last Friday night.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd game. First half, I think Vinemont had 18 minutes of time of possession. We had 6. We had like 10 snaps of offense in the first half. We didn't really do a whole lot on the offensive side. Vinemont was a ball control type offense. They were able to play keep away. They made some first downs, made a couple of fourth down conversions that kept drives going. The way that the scoring happened in the first half, they had made a couple of first downs on the initial possession of the game. And we were already down to about 7 minutes to go in the first quarter, and they tried to throw a pass, and we sacked the quarterback and stripped him and picked the ball up and scoop and score. So that was how it got to be 7-0, and then
you'll take that all day long.
I'll take that. That's right. Then we did get a stop on their next possession, and we drove down and scored a touchdown. Seemed like we took over somewhere around midfield. Went down and scored on a touchdown pass and made it 14-0. And then I think, if I remember right, our last score of the first half, I want to say we blocked a punt and ran it back down to the 1 and scored in one play. And so the halftime score was 21-0. And as I said, I think we'd run 10 snaps of offense and had held the ball for a possession time of less than 6 minutes. But, that's a compliment to our defense, compliment to our special teams. Like I said, defense gave up some plays as far as some first downs, some fourth down conversions, but they bowed their neck and we got stops when they got down on our side of the 50. Second half was a little bit different story. We were able to get some things going offensively. We had a first drive of about 70 yards and punched it in, but then somewhere there in the second half we had a tip ball for an interception and run it back for a touchdown. So we had 2 defensive touchdowns, had a block punt that got us down to the 1 and set us up with a short field, and then we were able to have a couple of drives there in the second half, that even at the end of the night, statistically speaking, I think they had like 180 yards of offense and we had like 223, so there wasn't a whole lot of offense in the game, but good special teams play, good work on our defensive side with creating some turnovers and then turn those turnovers into actual defensive touchdowns, and just field position game was the best things that we had going.
When you go in a halftime like that, is there something you're seeing during the game and you only have time to adjust to it at halftime, or how does that work for you? Like, I know other coaches try to do some stuff on the fly, but you can get the message more when the guys come in,
right.
And how far do you have to stray off the game?
Well, it was kind of aggravating, to be honest with you, because we would play good defense for 3 downs and then give up a fourth down and 2 where they get 3. We weren't getting many stops behind the line of scrimmage in the first half. Second half, we had a lot more tackles for a loss, and with their ball control, what they did, they weren't one-dimensional, but they were heavy run oriented, so when we put them having to throw the ball a little bit, was able to get after the quarterback, create some more big plays on the defensive side. And we mentioned the block punt, but we got after a couple more punts that they wound up shanking for like a 5-yard punt, so we took over on like their 30. I wasn't real happy with our performance in the first half because, like I said, we had 2 offensive possessions, scored on 1, the other one we got stopped on downs, and defensively we just couldn't get off the field 3 and out like what we've been accustomed to doing with their good kickoffs and getting off the field, in 3 plays. That didn't happen much in the first half, and so we kind of had to get on them a little bit about do a better job of completing and finishing a drive, whether it was offense or defense. And to our defensive guys' credit, Coach Lowe and them made a couple adjustments there at halftime. They did a much better job in the second half of putting Vinemont in some long yardage situations, forcing them to have to throw the ball. And then, like I said, we had a tip pass that we intercepted and run it back for a touchdown. So, a lot of things that we did a lot better in the second half than we did the first.
Coach, heading into this playoffs, you kind of looked ahead and you seen a collision course with the region with Fife and Geraldine, and now it's come to fruition.
Yeah.
A lot of talking heads. If all the talking heads knew all the answers, it'd be a different world. But when you looked across, you see Geraldine and you guys and Fife and Piedmont.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good football play between you guys, but when you look at this Geraldine team specifically, when you and I talked a little bit off camera about it, what have you seen from them? They do a lot of good things, little things really good.
Well, the first thing I recognize is they're a team. They play as a team. You know, Michael Davis has been there, I guess, 5-6 years now. He has got those guys playing with their hair on fire. They play the right way. They play fast. They get after it. They're good up front. They've got good skill guys. Defense, they fly to the ball. They're solid in all their special teams. I mean, everything that you look at when you turn the film on, you see a team that's extremely well coached. They all look like they love playing for each other. You know, as coaches, we enjoy watching teams that play that way. And then Geraldine's a fun team to watch. You know, in the North, last week, the 1s and 2s all held serve. I can't remember the last time that there wasn't an upset in the northern part of 3A, but you got all the 1s and all the 2s are still alive. That's the 4 matchups this week, so all those 1s are hosting, you know, and we're fortunate to be in that group of 8. You know, there's a lot of guys in that. You mentioned Piedmont and 5 and Geraldine and us. Our 2 regions are colliding, you know, in a second-round matchup. We're not on the level where those people are as far as the tradition goes. You know, that's the kind of reputation we're wanting to build. And for us to be in this game Friday night and playing against a quality opponent like Geraldine and being mentioned in the same breath with those other teams, you know, and you expand it even more in the north, you're talking about Mars Hill and Gordo and Colbert County and just I've left somebody out. I can't. Winfield, yeah. When you're talking about the people that are there, all of those 8 teams that are left in the north, I mean, there is tradition at a lot of those places, and here we are, you know. There's blue maps at Mars Hill. There's blue maps at Gordo. There's blue maps at Piedmont and 5. There's blue maps at Colbert County. You know, there's a lot of these places that have won championships. And so to be in this tournament, this is as strong as I can remember 3A being, not necessarily in our specific part of the state, but 3A North with 8 1s and 2s that are left in these second round matchups where there's just so much tradition and so much football pride that you have in those communities. And you know, I think we're building that here at Westbrook. I really feel like that we're starting to turn that corner of being one of those schools that can be in those conversations, and we're extremely excited to be playing this game.
Yeah, you mentioned the term blue bloods. A lot of those teams you look at over the years.
That's right.
Over the last 25, 30 years especially, those teams you mentioned have been, and you know, Mars Hill's doing kind of what you guys were, you know, just a few years ago.
Right, when you mentioned Mars Hill and Gordo and 5 Piedmont, Colbert County, I imagine there's probably 20, 25 blue maps between those 5 programs in the sport of football.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of championships in those communities, and there's a lot of people that remember those days and remember those times. And you know, I told our kids, you don't ever take it for granted, man. One game at a time, but you don't never take anything for granted. Geraldine, you know, I can see us being where they were a couple years back when they started making some noise in the playoffs. You know, it's kind of an ascension type thing. You and I talked about it before. You know, everybody wants to talk about culture. Well, culture is not even a point of conversation until you develop a little bit of a tradition, and tradition is not a little bit of a conversation until you do it several years in a row.
That's right.
You know, really, when you go into a new place and you're trying to change things, it's really the mindset that you're working on first.
That's right.
The mindset, can we be competitive in football? Can we be competitive in a regional level? Can we be competitive in a statewide level? And I feel like we're making some steps there to becoming more respectable and more competitive on that statewide level. But, you know, we're still in that mindset tradition transition. You know, we can't talk about football culture at Westbrook until we've done something and done it well for a long time. Whereas when you talk about tradition culture, you just look on the press box at Colbert County. You see all those years on the press box. You look on the scoreboard when you go to Piedmont. You look on the scoreboard when you go to 5. You know, you see the tradition, and you see those old timers that are still coming to the games and still talking about how it was in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. You know, that's what tradition and culture means, and that's when you go into those communities. You know, every one of those communities have probably got kids that their daddies played on championship teams, or granddaddies played on championship teams, or at least teams that were in contention for championships. And you know, we've got a little bit of a history here, but not quite what we would consider a football tradition, because you know, this has been a great year for us to this point this year. But you know, to build a tradition, you got to go out and do it again next year, and the next, and the next. And you know, that's something I've got a lot of admiration for Coach Davis and Geraldine. Prior to his arrival, Geraldine had some years where they had some 10-win seasons and they won a region championship and got to the semifinals and things like that. But here in the last 5, under his guidance and under his leadership, you know, we're talking about a team that they beat 5-3 of the last 5 times they played. You know, I know that sounds sacrilegious to talk about anybody else on the mountain beating Fife, but they beat them 3 of the last 5 times they played, and he's been the coach of all those. This is a team that beat Mars Hill 2 or 3 years ago in the playoffs, and then took them within 4 points or 5-point game last year in the playoffs. Mars Hill kind of steamrolled everybody on their way to the state championship. Geraldine is a team that can play on the statewide level with anybody in Class 3A.
Yep.
And we're excited to be playing in this game, excited to go take those guys on, got a ton of respect for what they do. And like I said, I think Michael Davis is one of the top bright young coaches in this state, and the Geraldine folks are going to be doing all they can, I'm sure, year to year to make sure they keep him happy and keep him around, because he's done an admirable job. He's from Geraldine, but he's going to be one of those guys that, there's a lot of these jobs that are coming open around here.
Yeah.
High school football coaching transition to carousel, but Michael Davis is going to be a name you hear up for a bunch of these jobs. Maybe not Michael Davis looking out for these jobs, but because people recognize the job that he's done and say, hey, we want some of what that guy at Geraldine's doing, go find out about him. And you're going to find one of the brightest, most well-mannered coach that you'll ever run across. I think the world of him.
Yeah, he is. He's everything you just said, for sure. He's a real deal, and class act, really nice guy to talk to.
Super good guy.
You wouldn't even really know he's a football coach. He's this super nice guy to sit here and chat.
But don't let that fool you. He is passionate, man. He is competitive. He's compassionate about the kids he's got on his team.
Yeah.
He loves Geraldine, man. He loves that community.
He played there,
He played at Geraldine, but this is a guy that's a fierce competitor from 7 o'clock to 9:30 on Friday nights, and that's what you want.
Talk about their quarterback, John Beck Wade, a little bit. He's a playmaker. He's tough. He's young, but he don't play young. Talk about him.
He's my kind of guy, man. I'm a football coach that loves just old-fashioned throwback football players. I mean, tell you enough about this kid. He's already got a lasting memory in my head. He started against us 2 years here ago in the 8th grade at defensive back, my first year here at Westbrook, and he had 3 interceptions against us. One of them he ran back for 105 yards for a touchdown. It was a one-score game.
It
was a one-score game in the 4th quarter. He picked the ball off down here in the end zone nearest the field house and ran it all the way back for a touchdown, made it 21-7. That kind of gave them some breathing room. They wound up winning the game 31-7, I believe was the final. But he made a huge impression on me that night. And I'm sitting there thinking, golly, somebody's got to contend with this guy for the next 4 years. And here we are 2 years later having to contend with him. He plays quarterback in their offense. It's a gun version of the wing tee. They still run wing tee plays, but they do a lot of misdirection, a lot of getting him out on the corner. He throws the ball much better than people would expect because of their rushing prowess. Everybody talks about their run game, but I seen him on film 6 for 9 for about 110 yards and 3 touchdown passes. He throws the ball very well intermediate, throws the ball well deep. They've got guys that can go get it. They got a big line up front that does a good job. Just a complete team on the offensive and really defensive and special team side of the ball. But he's obviously the guy that makes them go. He's the guy that makes them click. Just watching him, he's a winner.
Yeah,
I've seen him with clips on defense. They're going to put him in on the defensive side if they have to have him to win the game. He's going to be a headhunter on that side of the ball, but just a tough, hard-nosed kid. Watched him in the first round last week against Rogers. I won't say he had like 285 yards rushing on like 10 carries, 11 carries, and had 5 touchdowns. So he's a threat to take the ball to the house anytime he's got it in his hands, and they do an outstanding job of scheming plays to get him out on the corner and running the counters and things with him. They do a great job of getting him out there in space where he can make plays.
When you play a team like Geraldine, talk about how important this weight room we hear active behind us is because that's something
I promise you they're in it. Yeah. And that's something, I think our biggest gain, we talked to other coaches and one of the best compliments people have given us is how much stronger they can tell our kids are.
Yeah.
And, at high school football, it's not like it was in the 80s. The weight room is a vital part of it.
That's right.
In the 80s, when I was in school, people were just starting to familiarize themselves with the weight room part. The people that were doing the weight room stuff were kind of a little bit ahead of the game. But, football has become not necessarily a year-round sport for practicing, but at least a year-round sport for training.
Correct.
And, getting to the places that they want their kids to buy in, having that buy-in here, that whether it's the fall or the winter or the spring or the summer, we're building athletes for all of our sports year-round. The biggest difference I can tell in our kids, it's a lot of the same kids. They're great people. They're great kids, but they're nowhere near where they were as far as strength-wise, speed-wise. We've made tremendous gains there. And if you don't have that as part of your program, all these people that are looking for the next coach and all the things going on, if the administration at that school has not made a commitment to the weight program, and I'm talking about year-round. I ain't talking about them going to the gym when it's basketball season or going to the batting cages when it's the spring. I'm talking about year-round weight training for their kids. If they have not made that commitment, they're cheating their athletic programs at the school.
Yep.
and in particular football. There is no such thing as an off season for football. There's an off season when you're not playing games, but the weights and stuff. And look, you won't find a bigger advocate than me wanting kids to play basketball, wanting to play baseball, wanting to run track, play golf, soccer, whatever. I'm all about kids being involved. I wish every boy in this school played something fall, winter, and spring.
Yeah.
But the training part of becoming a better athlete is not a 3-month during football season process. And coaches will tell you, the people that are winning games right now, you're winning on Friday night, yes, on the field, but these games were won in January when you started your second semester back. A lot of people second semester come back to school and they wait a while to kick up the weight program. Well, every day you wait, there's a day you're behind, in my opinion. So the things that, and this is football season for us. We don't really recognize anything as game day or anything. We're going to do what we do all the way through. But heck, we lift on Fridays before we go to the pep rally. So I'm a big believer that has helped change the mindset as we were talking and giving our kids a lot more confidence on the football field because physically they just look different.
Yeah, probably feel different, obviously. Yeah. Probably gives them more confidence.
Yes, no doubt.
Though for A's, the harder you work, the harder it is to surrender too.
That's right.
We didn't sweat our guts out in there to give up this Friday night.
That's exactly right.
Talk about Westbrook for a minute. Let's turn the camera, so to speak, inward.
Right.
We're approaching this game. I know you're not going to give anything away, and I wouldn't expect you to, but just some things that obviously you have to get done.
Well, as these games, as you advance deep in the playoffs, the old coachisms, the things that everybody's like, yeah, you hear that all the time, they become more and more true. Field position is huge. Special teams is huge. Not giving up the big play is huge. Turnover margin, huge. Can't get stupid penalties, huge. All of those things are things that can be controlled with effort, focus, concentration, and your mindset. Those can all be controlled. Things you can't control, weather, cold, raining, you can't control that. But the things you can control, the preparation, the attention to detail, the effort that you're giving, we control all that. And so, we know we're playing a quality opponent. We're playing the 4th-ranked team in the state. They're not 4th-ranked team in the state for nothing. We know we're playing a very good football team. We also know that they're going to play their absolute best. It's going to come down to 2 teams, and I would just about be willing to bet you, if you look at the stat sheet after the game on Friday night, the team with the fewest penalties, the team with the fewest mistakes, fewest turnovers, the team that don't make mistakes in the special teams, the team that can keep from giving up big plays, will probably win the game.
I agree.
And like I said, it don't have nothing to do with scheme, has nothing to do with, Coach Davis and I, we're not going to play a play. Heck, if we did, advantage Geraldine. He's a lot faster and younger than I am. But
that's awesome.
At the end of the day, we're not going to play a play.
Yeah.
We're going to do our absolute best this week to prepare. They're going to do their best to prepare. And at the end, we're going to go out there and turn it over to a bunch of 14 and 19-year-olds and see what happens.
That's right.
And that's one of the big keys to coaching is getting you guys. It don't matter how much the coach knows. It's what the guys know, what they can be confident in, and what will allow them to play fast.
Right.
And so it don't matter if we've got 25 different ideas on how to stop the quarterback on the buck sweep. We got to be good at what we're doing, and the kids have got to be confident in it, and we got to be able to go out there and execute that because once that thing gets to the line of scrimmage and that referee gets out of the way and they snap it, it's 11 of ours and 11 of theirs that's going to decide the outcome.
That's right. No, I agree with you, man. And then, and it's out of your hands.
That's right.
You said advantage Geraldine.
That's it.
Michael Davis has got you right there.
He's got me. I can't cover him. I can't tackle him. I can't block him. I don't know what I could do with him.
Maybe grab him, put him in the chokehold.
Something when he ain't looking.
That's awesome. Before we turn it off, Coach, just kind of final thoughts on everything. Just wrap it up for us.
Excited to be here, man. Yeah. Getting into the second week of November, you're starting to get the little cool air that we had Monday and Tuesday this week. Football weather. There's nothing like high school football. Nothing like high school football, a place where it matters.
That's right.
Alabama, this state, football matters.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing like the playoff bracket and knowing that, hey, every Friday night, somebody's going to pull an upset. Somebody's going to win one they probably wasn't supposed to. Somebody's going to play a rematch and beat somebody that beat them earlier in the year. You got all those things that's happening and going on throughout this bracket. But at the end of the day, come Thursday, December the 4th, there'll be 2 teams at Legion Field, Birmingham at Protective Stadium playing for the 3A championship. And one of those teams will win, and they'll hold up that blue trophy, and one will hold up the red trophy, and all the rest of the teams that are not there is going to be thinking what could have been.
That's right.
And you can't live in the past, but you just try to get your players to live in the moment, enjoy where we're at, be where our feet are, go to Geraldine Friday night, lay it on the line, play our absolute best. At the end of the game, we'll shake hands, and whatever the scoreboard says, then somebody will move on and somebody will turn their stuff in on Monday.
That's awesome, Coach. And the mindset, the fact that Westbrook's here, and that's got to make you proud, and this community proud. And I'm positive that y'all are going to show up in droves.
Oh yeah, and that's something we talked about here. You know, most time if you go to the private schools, they don't really have a fan base because it's typically just the people that's got the kids on the team at that moment in time. I think I've told you many times before, I've played against a lot of private schools that were good, really, really good, and didn't have but a couple hundred people in the stands at their peak.
Yeah.
This community of Rainbow City has embraced this school, man. They really took the school in, and Mayor Joe Taylor is a huge supporter of our school. He does great things for this city. We'll travel to Geraldine Friday night with a fan base. Yes. We'll have people that's got kids on the team. We'll have people that don't have kids on the team. We've got people who are just Westbrook supporters. That's what makes it really exciting. And as you advance deeper into the playoffs, you know, more and more people get on the wagon, and that's always pretty cool too.
For sure, man. Here in the county, I think we're down to 3 schools now, so that's important too.
Yep.
That you guys represent.
Good luck to those guys in the county. I know Gadsden City and Coosa are both still around, and wish those guys the best of luck. You know, everybody say, well, how can you pull for somebody else? I can pull for anybody else.
Yeah.
I want the people around here to do well. I want those people put in time and effort. They work hard. They deserve an opportunity. They deserve what they've gotten.
Yeah.
And you hope that those guys do well. I don't pull against anybody unless they play on us.
One thing about Etowah County is, as teams go out, man, people start migrating and watching, and that's big too.
It is a big deal. It is a big deal.
And you mentioned Mayor Taylor, that dude's unbelievable.
Tremendous supporter of our school, and a great mayor for Rainbow City. You couldn't think of anybody any better.
Yeah, I made a post about him. We've been voted the safest city in Alabama 5 consecutive years under him, and that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
You're looking for places to live or places to come visit or whatever it may be.
That's right.
Huge. Coach, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.